always say all of it, but Kevin
you don't have more time.
Kevin knows how long that can be. So I just want to make a note about process. Pearl, you mentioned that the tribunal proceedings are an open process with no secrets. In fact, shortly after this, you suggested that we Google it. In fact, I did, and you can thank the ubiquity of the internet for allowing me to do that. And in summation of what I found, basically, Section 37 of the Human Rights Act contains a clause that allows tribunal proceedings to be held in secret if the tribunal finds that the safety of the witnesses is threatened in some way. Now, you might be able to expound on this.
That's true in any court. That's true in any court proceeding. You can ask for an camera.
Okay, so I just want to make a comment more generally on my personal take on the situation, but it just seems to me that, and you use the words shutting down to refer to, you said shutting down the venues by which this speech is perpetuated, presumably speech that you said you find inappropriate in civilized society. Yes, some of the things that Reverend Stephen Buzan said are offensive to me as a gay person, right? But the correct response is not to shut them down. The correct response is to have an open and public airing of views, however offensive they might be. I should add that no progressive cause has ever advanced without offending some kind of social or cultural norms. You can give it whatever newspeak name you want, shutting down, whatever you want to call it. It's censorship, and as much as I might like you as a person, I think you're a censor. I'm sorry.
So, Pearl the censor, response.
Well, you raised a lot of really good points, and thank you for Googling them while we were talking. On the point about open tribunal hearings, tribunals in this regard, and not in others, do function pretty much like courts. You need a compelling reason to seek a secret or so-called in-camera proceeding. For example, in child custody cases, for example, if the child is going to be in physical danger, you can ask for an in-camera hearing. Similarly, in a Human Rights Commission hearing, you can ask, if you can demonstrate in objective terms danger to a witness or a party, you can ask, and there is a burden of proof to be met in getting that request accorded. So that's a pretty common feature across the entire justice system. Sorry, go ahead.
So you're saying that as a general rule, the Human Rights Commissions follow common law rules of evidence and procedure?
Right. That's right.
So why then, in a regular court, everyone is responsible for paying their own legal fees, while in the case of the Human Rights Commissions, as far as I understand it, and I might be wrong, some Section 13 cases are prosecuted entirely by the government on behalf of the complainant, and the defendant is responsible for paying every cent of his legal fees. And not only that, but the Commission can see fit to limit his legal team under certain conditions.
Okay.
When he can have counsel present and how many people can constitute.
Have you considered law school?
A lot of people have said that to me.
Well, you should
in a good way or a bad way?
You should think about it. You'll forgive me for doing Procedure 101 in 30 seconds.
Or less, if possible.
Here we go. You must have a lawyer in order to appear before a court of law if you wish to have a legal representative. In fact, you do not need to have a lawyer before a Human Rights Commission.
I think it was mentioned that it's very advisable, though, and I think it is.
You've had more than your 30 seconds.
So it's just, I mean, we can talk afterwards if you want, but what you've stated is not in fact accurate. You do not need to have a lawyer before a Human Rights Commission. It's a good idea for the reasons Dan talked about, particularly for respondents. And secondly, as I mentioned earlier, you can get your costs both in many tribunals in Canada in the human rights section. You can ask for costs if you feel the parties have been abusive, as you can in many in the regular court system.
Chris, I just want to, it's a question about process, so it's kind of your, okay. Anyone else?
I would just add that when we heard through a radio interview and subsequent phone call from a police officer, actually it was kind of funny if you have 1 minute. Bruce McKinnon did a cartoon of Sharifa Macaulay, who's from Halifax, but is married to one of the individuals who was charged, and then charges against him for suspected terrorism were dismissed. So anyway, they didn't like this or they were stayed, I should say. They didn't like the commercial, the cartoon. They went on, apparently someone tried to call me or Bruce or somebody at the paper. We never could find any record of that. But they were on the radio in the afternoon saying, you know, this is just the mainstream media ganging up on the brown man yet again. And this is what happens every single day in every mainstream media publication. It's beat up on the poor Muslims and all that. So I couldn't stand that. I called radio and said, I want to be able to respond to that. And so we get into this kind of bizarre, you know, Fellini situation where I was calling them and they weren't calling me and we couldn't get in touch. And then, so I get a call from